Michelle Burnett, who is the Executive Director, CEO of SIA. So she can always help us answer questions too, or tell me if I'm telling you something wrong. So that's exciting. Can you all hear me? That's true. Can you all hear me? Do you want me to use the microphone? Okay. I'm a former teacher and I'm loud, so. Okay, let's get started. So, this is contact information. Now, some of this is going to be changing, obviously, with tomorrow's election of a new treasurer. The new treasurer will become treasurer on July 1st, and so the phone and the mailing address and the name will obviously switch over then. So you will notice, we'll get to that when we talk to dues, but this is the current address for anything that you are sending up until June 30th, which is the end of the fiscal year. These are just some helpful contact information. Just so everyone knows, this PowerPoint is also going to go on the website. This is also being recorded and put on the YouTube channel so you can watch later. And once this is on the website, these are all clickable links. So you'll be able to, you can download this PowerPoint and click and it'll take you places, which is nice. I try and do that for you. Okay, these are the topics we are going to be covering. We are going to be covering your duties and best practices as treasurer, paying dues, which is timely because that's happening right around now. Taxes, federal and state, licenses and fees, and insurance. Before I start, raise your hand if this is your first time that you've ever been treasurer. You are a brand spanking new treasurer.
For this organization or any organization?
For this organization, sure. Okay, raise your hand if you've been treasurer before. All right, so if you're new, look around. It's not that scary. People come back and do it. Okay?
Not willingly.
Okay, let's start with your duties and best practices. The first thing you want to look is there's a whole thing, Club Treasurer Guidelines, on the SIA website that you can get to. It's a great place to start. There's a calendar. It tells you generally what needs to happen when. It's a really good resource for you to have, and just print a copy, stick it in your treasurer binder so you can refer to it easily. You should also have club documents. You should have access to your bylaws, your policies and procedures, if you have standing rules, any succession planning documents like a treasurer training manual, for example, so that you're not coming in blind. They can give you something that says, this is how you do X, Y, and Z. It's probably a good idea as treasurer to have a copy of the bylaws and the policies and procedures in your treasurer binder or in your treasurer materials, something that you can refer to, especially when it comes to reimbursements and things like that. I know for me, so if someone says, what do I get reimbursed for? I say, have you read the procedures? Because that is my guiding document. You don't get any money from me unless it says I can give it to you in the procedures. So you should have something that says how to do what, right? And it's not just treasurer stuff. There's all kinds of club management stuff, but you should really have a copy of that so you can refer to it. Okay. Let's talk big picture. I'm not going to read this to you, but these are the things that we're going to be going over. These are an overview. Okay, for bank signature cards. When you are at the beginning of the fiscal year, you're going to need to take former officers off the bank accounts and add the new officers. Different banks do it different ways. It's changed a little bit, I would say, in like the 10 years that I've been kind of doing this off and on. But most often, if you have minutes of a board meeting or a letter to the bank that says who is coming off the account, who is coming onto the account, signed by the current treasurer or the outgoing treasurer or the outgoing president of your club, and then the minutes where the election results were reported with those people's names, that makes it really easy for the bank. They they typically require everyone who's gonna be a signer to have a signature card or sign, you know, on one of those pin pads or whatever at the bank. But that's something that you need to do. Now, if you are switching banks or opening a new account, you may have to bring bylaws, but that's bank dependent. If you go to the bank, they'll tell you what you need. Are there questions about that? Yeah.
Which officers would you recommend are signers on the bank account?
Yeah, that's actually next. Smart. So, it should be you. You should be a signer as treasurer. A lot of clubs have an assistant treasurer, which is helpful, just for things like double signing checks. 2 other board members, usually it's the secretary and 1 other person. You should really be requiring 2 signatures on a check. And I will tell you, that's not only to prevent like fraud and stuff like that, but it's, I mean, last biennium, at a conference, I gave, you know, former Governor Lisa a check, and I hadn't signed it, you know, and she was like, you didn't sign this. So, I mean, if we did have double signers, I would have sent it in the mail without a signature, you know what I mean? So it's just a good idea to, double check the amount. They can look at the receipt and say, yes, the amount is correct. Yes, it came out of, you know, wherever it needs to. 2 signatures is a good idea. Signers should not have access to the PO box if you can help it, only because then they can take the bank statement and they can manipulate the information, you know, to match whatever money they decided to take out of that bank account or whatever. So if, like, usually the club president has the PO box key, they're not usually a signer for that reason. Just separating those is a good idea. So, and this is really, really important. Let's say your assistant treasurer resigns from the club, they're no longer a club member, you need to take them off that bank account immediately. Because as a signer, they could walk into the bank and clean you up. So, you know, if they're not a member of your club anymore, they shouldn't be anywhere near your bank accounts, right? I mean, that's obvious, but I feel like I should say it anyhow. Okay. Probably the biggest thing that you do as treasurer is receive and deposit funds, right? So you're gonna receive funds at a fundraiser, or lunches at a club meeting, or dues, or whatever. As soon as someone gives you a check or gives you something, you should probably write down what it's for right away. I mean, something as easy as a sticky note that says conference registration, so that when you look at it 2 days later, you're not like, why did she write me a check for $75? I have no idea what this is for, right? You should be recording the funds as you receive them, and you should have a recording system that works for you, that is easy for others to understand, that you can stick to, okay? You should be depositing money as soon as possible. Please do not hold on to checks for weeks and weeks, or months and months, because things get lost. Especially cash should be deposited same day if you can, or the next day. You don't want to be walking around with a bunch of cash. This is to protect you, because ultimately, you're the treasurer and you're responsible for this stuff. So, if you aren't at the event, whoever is at the event and in charge of the cash needs to get it to you as soon as possible. You know, like these are all things that you know, but protect yourself, get things deposited, etc. When you're counting money, you should probably have 2 people count it. I do that because if you count it and you count it wrong, or someone else counts it and they take 20 bucks out of it or whatever, if you have 2 people counting it, 2 people are there to record it, they both sign off on the record of the amount, it protects you. You can then put it with the deposit slip. When you go deposit it, it's all together. If someone asks, you can point to that and say, you know, Michelle helped me count that after such and such event. You know, so there's 2 of you. You should be one of the people counting. Even if someone at an event, they count the money and then they give it to you, you should count it. Again, don't just take their word for it, make sure that you agree, as you are ultimately responsible. Oh, and I only say this because it has happened so many times, I've heard about this so many times. If you took $200 for your cash box out of the bank, when you go to make your deposit, make sure you separate out that $200, you know, because it's not income, right? So just make sure you separate it out, because sometimes people forget to do that. And then you're going, why am I off by $200, you know? Okay. If you have a cash box, don't leave it lying around. If you have to relocate, take it with you, or leave it with someone who is a signer or someone you trust. After the 2 counters are finished counting, one should take the money and the other should take the record, so that the person taking the money can't alter the record, you know? I mean, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen, unfortunately, and you shouldn't have anyone with the money and the only documentation. Now, if you want to have it with the funds, you can make a copy to send with the other person, and that's fine. But if you only have one documentation of the amounts, don't send it with the person with the cash. That would be my recommendation. Okay, the other thing you do, you take in money, you send out money, right? You pay bills. Every single check you write, every single thing that you pay needs to be budgeted. You should not be writing checks unless you have the budgeted funds for them. Let's say you have budgeted for, I don't know, when we used to do President's Appeal, right? And let's say you put in your budget that you are thinking you're gonna raise $300 or whatever, and that you put that in income and expense, and your club really shows out and you raise 500. You really shouldn't write that check for 500 because it says 300 in your budget. So what you would have to do is go back to the board and say, we need to increase our budget. You have a board vote, you have a membership vote, you increase the budget, you write the check, you're good. Just because someone requests reimbursement doesn't mean that you should reimburse them, because it has to be budgeted or properly authorized. So, you know, if someone decides that they're gonna start a new fundraiser and they haven't talked to the board and they haven't talked to the rest of the members and they're gonna take this on and they're gonna sell cookies or whatever, right? And they go ahead and they buy all the ingredients for the cookies and they turn in a thing to you, but your club has never heard of this cookie business. No, you're not going to pay them back for the ingredients for the cookies unless the board decides to budget for that and the membership votes on it, you know? Use an expense voucher. It makes it a lot easier for yourself. It puts the burden on the member requesting reimbursement instead of on you. They need to tell you what they're being reimbursed for. They need to tell you why you need to reimburse them. There should be a date. There should be a receipt. If they don't have a receipt or some kind of documentation that they actually spent the money, don't pay them back. Because you keep a copy of all these records for like 7 years for the IRS, and people actually keep them longer. A lot of people will keep them like 20 years, right, Danielle? Yeah. And the IRS, they're like, why did you pay this person back without a receipt? They'll ask if you get audited. So keep it. Questions? Am I scaring you? Okay. This is a sticky one that comes up sometimes about having an ATM card for your club. I know it's really hard to get cash, to get cash out without the ATM card. It makes it a lot easier. Or to have a debit card for paying stuff online. I wouldn't do it. I would have a credit card before I ever had a debit card. Because, and I'll get into this a little bit more in a little bit, but it's a lot easier to recoup your money if there's fraud with a credit card than there is with a debit card. And if you have an ATM card, you can walk up to the bank and you can take out money and walk. You know, you never have to interact with another person, you don't have to get any kind of two signatures on a check you're gonna cash, whatever, although people don't really do that anymore. But, I wouldn't have an ATM card for your club. I would write checks or go into the bank and have a record of, yeah.
So, I've been treasurer for like 5 years now.
Yeah.
And I pay the dues and I pay it with my credit card because we don't have an ATM or a bank card or anything. And then I always have to write a check
To yourself.
to myself. And I feel weird doing that sometimes because I haven't had an assistant treasurer in years, which I finally get one this year. So, I mean, is that what most people just do, just the treasurer pays it and gets reimbursed?
Yeah, I mean, some clubs do that. Can we do bank drafts yet?
That's what we recommend.
Yeah, so you don't even have to use a credit card anymore. You can just do a straight bank draft. Hook up the,
Online paying dues?
yeah, you can do online bill pay, right? With paying dues for SIA.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what we recommend, yes.
yeah. When I was club treasurer, I did the same thing you did, and I didn't mind because I got the miles, right? But, I write myself checks as region treasurer. I mean, I have to, right? I have to reimburse myself, but someone else signs them, someone else sees them, right? And there's always a receipt. It feels a little weird, but as long as there's a receipt and you've got documentation, you're
Yeah.
okay. But I would switch to bank draft, because then you can take yourself out of it completely that way. Yeah.
The problem we have found though is if you try to get a credit card, at ATM, you can get it in the Soroptimist club name. When you get a credit card, you have to use personal names, and they leave or something, it's a big hassle.
It is a big
And we
hassle.
have ongoing charges like our website design.
Right.
Designer. It's,
I know, it's really annoying.
it's annoying.
The other thing you can do is have a member pay that and submit for reimbursement every once in a while.
Yeah, I guess we can do that for our online, website stuff, okay.
That's what I would do. I mean, you're right, getting the credit card, getting a new credit card, I'm about to have to do that. It is a real pain.
It is.
Cause there's a lot of personal information you have to give
Yeah,
them,
you have to get all.
social security card numbers and
Yeah,
all
and
that.
if you leave, you have to see if you, it's a.
Yeah, cause then you have to call and take them off the
That's
account,
right.
but you have to do that if they leave the bank anyhow.
I'm talking about credit card.
I know, but it's,
True, no,
You gotta do it
makes
either way.
easier.
yeah, it is. One thing before I move on, do not pay people back in cash. You can't write a check. I know no one has checks anymore. I mean, I don't even have a checkbook. They printed me some at the bank personally, but write them checks, because it's a lot easier to track a check than it is, yeah, I gave you $20. No, you didn't, you know? Okay, are you all reconciling your bank accounts every month? Every single month, without fail? Right at the beginning of the month, not like on June 20th. You're doing it like June 3rd, right? Okay. Yeah, they need to be reconciled every single month, and as soon as you get the bank statement, you need to do it. And sometimes there are discrepancies. I mean, I just ran into one, it was like 6 cents, right? Like,
Those make me crazy.
yeah. Well, and whatever, like the bank had just misread the amount on the check or something, and so it was off. And I actually went into the bank and I was like, look, I'm not actually gonna open a case over 6 cents. But do I have to do that, or can you just, and they were like, no, we have to like call corporate and do a whole thing. And I was like, it's cool, I'll just write it off at 6 cents. But it happens. And if I had waited a couple months, or if it had been $26 or whatever, and I had waited a couple months to reconcile, there are limits, time limits, to when the bank will go back and fix things. So you need to be reconciling every month so that if there's an issue, you can take care of it immediately. Okay? You need to be keeping a copy of every bank statement. I personally keep a paper copy and an electronic copy. Copies of canceled checks, in case you get audited. You can get them online too if you need to. And you need to be putting the bank reconciliation printed out with its statement. I keep an electronic copy and I have a paper copy in a binder. You need to have that every month. They should match, and there's a reason for it, because you're gonna do a club audit, and we'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, let's talk treasurer's reports. After you reconcile, you can make a balance sheet, a profit and loss, and a budget versus actual. Okay, and we'll talk accounting software in a little bit, but these are the three main reports you really need to become comfortable with making, reading, understanding, allowing others to understand. Okay, a balance sheet. It's essentially just a snapshot of your club's finances. It's just assets equals liabilities plus equity. And it is, you can run a balance sheet for any date, and it tells you what is happening on that date. It should include bank balances that match your reconciliation report. So if you have if you reconcile your June bank statement, then when you run the June 30th balance sheet, it should match the bottom line in your bank statement. The other is an income statement, which is also known as a profit and loss. And this is just a report of receipts and disbursements and net income for the period of the report. Usually you'll run it for the fiscal year. So every time I run one, it's July 1st, 2025 to whatever date. April 30th was the date for the last board meeting, the one yesterday. And then there is a budget versus actual, and that shows how much is budgeted, and then the actual income and expenses against that budget, to make sure that you are not going over budget, to see how much is left in a budget. A budget versus actual will tell you that. You should be preparing these, the balance sheet and the profit and loss, preparing them monthly to share at your board meeting. And then with the club members at the monthly business meeting. You should be having a monthly board meeting, you should be having a monthly business meeting. If you're not, you need to talk to your president about that. And if your president gives you pushback, you need to send it up the chain, because you really need to be having those meetings once a month. Budget versus actual, you don't need to do monthly. Most people do it quarterly, just to give you an idea of where your standing is in the fiscal year. Are there questions about the treasurer's report? Yeah.
So we've been kind of discussing this a lot lately. How much information should be shared during a meeting? Because if there's visitors there,
It's public.
right, so it is public, but do you want to be sharing that kind of information if they're sitting in the room or?
You're a 501c3, so
Yes.
it's public.
Okay, so no, not a deal.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, are you afraid that people will look at it and be like, why do you have so much money, why aren't you giving away more money, that kind of
Well,
thing?
why do you have a fundraiser every year when you have this much money in your bank account? Yeah,
People
exactly.
who ask those questions don't understand how nonprofits work.
No, that's.
Honestly,
I mean, but it, you know,
it happens.
It's a new thing for us, so we're just like, what do we do? We don't know how to deal with this. So,
I mean, what do you guys think back there? It's public information, I mean,
So there's two aspects to that. One, we don't want to overload our meetings with financial reports, since people don't wanna come to meetings every month and just sit and listen to financial reports.
right,
I think we want to put some onus and responsibility on our members who want that information to read in advance. So I think you can provide a report, but at the actual meeting, you just do a overview of what the report says. So you're kind of giving them, you're still being fully transparent, if anybody wants some additional information is available, provide the information in advance, and then again, you're just doing an overview of the meeting. But I do wanna go a little bit back to the piece about why you have so much money in your account and you're still doing fundraisers. So there's this, misconception a lot about like, oh, well, you shouldn't have a profit, you shouldn't have these things. I agree that, you can have a profit, but I also wanna make sure that we're being careful that we don't have, hundreds of $1,000s sitting there and we're not using that money towards advancing the mission. So there's a
Right.
little more to that than just,
Right.
it's okay to
and
have
it
money
just
going
means
to
long
right?
term, you know,
That's
investment,
exactly,
so, right,
exactly.
right.
So and I think you got that, but I just wanted to just point that out, so.
And also, you never know, like for our club, we have, it's not a true endowment,
always just email it to your club and at your meeting, just do a real high level type summary.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Email details.
Yeah. Regardless of how you do it though, your club members should be aware of club finances, and especially the board of directors should really be able, they should know monthly where you guys stand. Okay. Accounting systems. Most clubs use QuickBooks, some clubs use Excel. Someone asked me about Quicken a few months ago, which I've never used, I've never seen. I think it's like QuickBooks Lite.
We use QuickBooks.
Yeah.
But it's light.
It's like,
Yeah.
It's much more for personal checkbook maintenance, but you can have multiple accounts. I've used it for 30 years with other organizations and my personal accounting. And it does everything we need it to do. And it's translatable to the average person who doesn't think they get accounting.
Well,
That's why I like it.
Quicken, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah. QuickBooks, which I think is what most people use, there are a lot of pros and cons. One of the big pros is it generates the reports you need. It's very easy. You just go in, you pick your date, there, you know, and you go. It can be pretty intimidating if you're new to accounting. Although I will say that Google is your friend and YouTube is your friend. You can learn a lot just by Googling, how do I do blah, 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 you know? I mean, I do that all the time still. A pro and a con is that you can go back and make changes to it pretty easily, which, you know, is nice, but CPAs don't love that. So the CPAs who are in the room are probably like, about that. But it does make it nice if you're like, you know what, this is not right. When you're doing your reconciliation, you're like, oh, this didn't get classed, or this didn't get put in the right place, or whatever. You can go back and change it, right? Which is nice. A lot of smaller clubs who have limited finances will just use Excel. It's very simple to use Excel. I mean, Excel will set up a budget for you. It's like one of their templates or whatever. But it doesn't automatically make the reports you need. You need to know how to do that. You need to know how to manipulate it. I swear you could run the world on Excel if you know what you're doing. But it can be simple, but it can also be, I swear you could get like a graduate level degree in Excel. Yeah.
So I had a really bad experience last year with QuickBooks when they went from desktop to online.
Yeah.
They basically hijacked my QuickBooks because the person who had set up the QuickBooks years ago, she was the owner of the account and they would not let me do anything. And so basically, luckily that year I had done year-to-date everything. And I'm using a program right now called New Cash.
Okay.
It's GNU Cash. It's free and it's very similar to QuickBooks. It's a little different. I manipulated the chart of accounts to be what I need it to be and give me what I need because our club's really small. But it's a free program and it actually works pretty well so far.
It's easy to use. It's
Yeah.
user-friendly. That's good to know. That's great.
It is a free open source program. I've actually used it for like 20 years for my own stuff.
Great.
It's been around forever. They are still developing it. The hardest part is getting reports out of it. Because if you try to do fancy reports, it'll do generic reports, but the fancier ones are a little bit difficult sometimes. But I highly recommend that.
Yeah. Ours are simple. I just have a simple balance sheet, simple profit and loss.
GNUCASH.
Okay, that's good to know. I mean, I've never heard of it, so
Yeah.
that's why I love doing this. We can share. Yeah.
How much is QuickBooks now a year? It just gets more expensive and more expensive.
You can buy your license through, who gives the nonprofit?
I think TechSoup might still be
think
involved,
TechSoup
but
is still
they
doing
don't
it.
give a whole lot of a discount on it
mean,
anymore.
it's-
And it's monthly now, not annual.
It's monthly.
Oh, you can do annual? Oh, okay.
Oh, that's a lot much. There's a make accounting system too that's pretty good.
Okay.
I've used it for a long time.
Okay, these are all good to know. Yeah.
So Evie, on QuickBooks, we did it through TechSoup, but it was a couple years ago now. And I wanna say our annual for up to 5 users is $80 a
For a
year,
year?
for the year,
Oh, that's not good.
for for the year, so pretty affordable versus a business account.
Good to know, yeah. Anything else about accounting systems? Is everyone using an accounting system, at least? You're not just like, no one's working on a paper ledger, right? You laugh, but honestly, it happens, so. Yeah, like we said, just make sure it's accurate, make sure it's understandable, make sure it gives you what you need for your treasurer's reports, whatever you choose to use. You, as club treasurer, are on the finance committee for your club. The finance committee prepares the budget for next fiscal year, and at year end, they review your books. You're supposed to review your books, and we'll talk about that a little bit later to make sure that you are being accurate. Creating a budget. SIA has a sample club budget. If you don't know where to start, if your club isn't currently doing a budget, which you should because you're supposed to be turning that in, you're supposed to be turning it in. But SIA provides a sample club budget, which is lovely. I can also help you with that, or you could ask another club, how do you guys do it? If you share with each other, you can do a very simple budget. It can be very easy. You have a couple of different options when creating a budget. You can either, in April or May, create a budget for the following fiscal year, your final budget. Membership looks at it, you all vote on it, yay, happy, fun, you're good for the next fiscal year. If you have a huge fundraiser on May 15th for your club and you want to know how much money you make from that before deciding on what you're going to spend for the next fiscal year, you can do like a temporary budget. So you have a temporary budget in place through the summer, and then in the fall you can create a final budget based on the actual numbers. So that way you're covered for anything that you're spending in the summer. Maybe there's a special club project that you guys always do in July, or you know, if you have like a monthly lunch meeting in July and August and you have to pay for that, you're covered for that kind of stuff, right? So a temporary budget in place is fine for that. Once you have a process that works, I would try and stick with it though. I wouldn't be flip-flopping around between these because it can get very confusing when you're looking at records, past records. Does that make sense? Yeah.
We haven't done a temporary budget with our group, but it makes too much sense to not.
Yeah.
So is your timeline recommendation that you put a temp budget in, say and vote on it with everybody through the process by the May budget, it's in force effective July 1st, and then work on the official final?
Yeah, that's what my club does. And I would say you want to vote on it at the April or May business meeting, because if someone says nay, 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 and it doesn't pass, you're gonna have to wait until the next month. And if you do it at the June business meeting, then you don't have a budget come July 1st. So do it a few months early, just in case you need to go back and amend something because, you know, the membership voted it down. And then for the final budget, my club does that. They do a temporary and then a final. And it's September. We start working on it and it gets passed by like October.
Perfect.
So, and the temporary budget is not at all finalized. It doesn't even have something for every category. It's just the stuff that you know you're gonna need to pay for until that final budget is in place.
Thank you, that's a big help.
Yep,
Edie, can I ask a quick question on the last slide, actually?
sure.
So the finance committee,
Yeah.
is it not a recommendation that the treasurer chair said finance committee, and if so, why not?
I would say no, because it's a lot of work. Honestly, the treasurer has enough to do that they don't need to be setting up meetings and all of this stuff too. Like, someone else can set up the meeting and make sure everyone is invited to it. And you can provide all the materials, you can provide all the reports that they're gonna need, all the financials they're gonna need, but let someone else lead it, because you have too much other stuff to do. I mean, that's my personal opinion. But I don't think it's a problem if the treasurer chairs it.
So then the treasurer would not be the one preparing the budget, it would be the finance committee.
Correct. Based on the financials that the treasurer provides. when you're creating, you know what, this is a good point. I know once upon a time, budgeting was, I don't know, Mary Sue and Ann get together over lunch, they hammer out a budget, the end, right? Just like three random people. Oh, I feel like spending money on this next year, the end. It should be a transparent process, there should be a committee, you should be looking at actual finances when you're creating your budget. Budgets should be approved by the membership. It's not a backroom deal, guys, okay? Does that answer your question though?
Yeah.
Like, do you,
It does. It could just be a club specific.
oh, interesting, we can talk about it later, if you don't wanna talk about it now. Or-
I don't wanna take up all the time.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we talked about this, about expenditures not exceeding the budget. You can always amend the budget with the vote of a membership. It is not, it's not a concrete document or whatever I'm trying to say. If you need more money for something, if a committee comes back and they say, you know what, our program to make hygiene kits for the local women's shelter was so successful and they need another 100, and we really feel like this is a great program and it's really helping women and we want another $1,000. They make their case, the membership says, you know what, I think that's a great use of that money. Amend the budget and move on, right? It's not set in stone. But if you're gonna change the budget, the membership has to vote on it. They vote on the original budget and they vote for any amendment. You should be auditing your books every year. It should be in your bylaws or your procedures about the club audit. It should say who serves on the audit committee. Typically, there is a former treasurer, so someone knows what's going on when they're looking at that stuff. Typically, there is one of your club officers or a member of the board of directors, and usually a member of the finance committee, because, you know, they went through the budget process and they can understand it. I would suggest auditing your books, and actually, we don't even use the word audit technically, reviewing your finances. I would say like by September of the following year, so it's fresh, so that if there are questions, it's fresh in your mind and you can answer them. I wouldn't wait 6 months or a year. And you should include a copy of the audit report with the records so that anyone can refer back to it later. And I would also make a copy and keep it with the current fiscal year, because you can use that information to fill out the first part of the audit. Because you fill out where you were at the beginning of the year and where you were at the end of the year. And so if you make a copy for the next year, then you already have the beginning of that year information at hand.
Is there ever a need or a precedent for an external audit with any kind of cadence, or is that not a requirement?
I don't think that's a requirement. I mean, if you suspect fraud and you wanna bring in someone else, I think that's the kind of thing you go to SIA about, yeah?
I mean, I don't suspect fraud or anything. I just-
Yeah, but that's not the only reason why you do it. Like that seems more reactive than proactive, to do an audit, because you suspect fraud.
Right.
And obviously that would be one of the reasons why you would want to do an audit. But I would say depending on the size of your budget, depending on how many transactions you have, depending upon the capacity of the, members that you have, there are some that have no accountants or anybody that has any accounting
good guide. It's a great place to start. It kind of tells you what questions you need to be asking and what you need to be looking for. So,
One other thing to add, another clear indication in maybe the external audience, if you get any grant funding or any funding from like government or other entities, they may have requirements on you to have an external audit. If you do like gambling activities in certain states, you have to have an audit. So there are certain things that will automatically key you into saying, oh, we need to get an audit. So something to take into consideration when you accept grant funding. Looks good, $30,000 in grant funding, but it costs you $10,000 to do an audit every year. So just take those things into consideration.
That makes sense, thank you.
that's smart. Okay, you should be keeping records for at least 7 years. It's as simple as a box a year, guys. I mean, literally, you throw it into a box, you organize it at the end of the year, you make sure everything's tip-top, put it into storage, you move on. You can also keep electronic records. I would suggest having both. But it needs to include all of these things, okay? So any expense reports you've gotten, any deposit slips, any income reports that you have, all the bank statements, all the reconciliations that match the bank statements, all of your tax forms. I would put any insurance documents in there. I would put, you cannot have too much stuff. If you aren't sure if it should go in there, put it in there. Cause it'll make it a lot easier later. And keep it organized. Okay, the last thing you do, is you prepare and submit government filings, and we're gonna talk about taxes later. There is it's a 3-page document on the SIA website that just reviews incorporation, tax exempt status, soliciting contributions, et cetera, et cetera. It's pretty easy to find. If you can't find it, ask me and I will just send it to you. Honestly, I usually print out a copy for everyone, but my printer was running out of ink, so I didn't do that. Sorry. Every club needs to have their own EIN. It used to be that you could be like under the SIA umbrella EIN, but every club at this point needs to have their own. Yes? Okay. You should have a document from the IRS with your tax exempt status that lists your employee identification number. You should be keeping a copy of this as treasurer. There are a lot of times when you have to prove your tax exempt status, you go to Dell and you wanna buy a computer, and they say, we're gonna charge you tax, and you say, no, you have a document, you can give it to them. That typically will work. It's a useful thing to have. You can also incorporate. I don't know anything about it. SIA doesn't help with it. I think you need a lawyer to do it. There are benefits. I don't know what they are, honestly. I think it's only in California. My club is not incorporated, so yeah.
I am a California person, so I will speak on behalf, but we've done a lot of work on this region. I'm happy to share. We've created like a flow chart.
For incorporation?
For incorporation. We're encouraging it very strongly in our region, primarily because it kind of removes personal liability out of your club for events. So unincorporated clubs, if someone would fall or something, it could get to a point where individual members could be liable. So the greatest advantage is just that sort of legal protection by being incorporated. But anyway, happy to share with your region what we've done.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It's been really just in the last year.
That would be great. Yeah, please do. That might be something that the next treasurer can take on. Yeah.
And just tying that into something mentioned earlier about getting a credit card, if you're incorporated, it's 1,000% easier to get a corporate credit card for the club.
It's a good point. I didn't even think about that. When you're soliciting donations, try and keep your language general, only because you can't you can't solicit funds for something specific and then not spend the money on that specific thing. If you put out a jar and you say, all of this money is going towards our Club's Live Your Dream Award for 2026, right? Every single bit of money that goes into that jar those funds are set aside, those funds can't be used for anything else. So it is my recommendation that when you're soliciting funds, you keep it general. It makes it a lot easier, because then you're not having to keep track of restricted funds. Everything is restricted, and it just makes it easier. Of course, if you want visibility around a certain project, and you really do want funds specifically for something, and you wanna solicit for those, that's totally fine. I'm just saying, at your yearly fundraiser that you do every year, maybe keep it general. It's just easier for you, honestly. It's easier for accounting purposes, but it's obviously up to you. Like I said, if you don't restrict donations, it's a lot easier to keep the books straight. If a donor asks for a receipt, you need to give it to them. They can claim a tax deduction if it's $250 or more. Last I checked, that's still the case. But it's their responsibility to ask you for a receipt. You don't have to give every single person that gives you money a receipt, but if they ask for it, you should be giving them a receipt. The receipt should have the name of your club. I would put your EIN on there, the amount of the contribution, or if it's a non-cash, you need to put the statement, no goods or services were provided in exchange for your contribution, or an estimate of goods and services if it's an in-kind donation. I will say, for issuing receipts, I literally open up Copilot and say, I need a receipt from Soroptimist Sierra Nevada region, FEIN blah blah blah, for this person, for this amount, for this purpose, and it makes the receipt for me. And I PDF it, I make sure it's all right, I PDF it, I send it off. Yeah. Yeah.
Just to reinforce the significance and purpose of stating what you're soliciting funds for. And if you are, you do solicit for a specific purpose, you need to make sure you keep those funds segregated and that they are in fact used for that specific purpose. Because someone can come back later and say, not only do I want to receive, but I also want to see where my funds were used and if they were used for the purpose that we designated. So it's really, really important, and it may not seem like a big deal, but we had somebody come and give us $200. I want to see where my $200 goes or when. So just be mindful of, if in fact you do state it for a specific purpose, it's for that purpose.
Yes? Thank you. Okay, you don't need to keep your service funds separated or segregated from your general fund. You can have it all in the same place unless it is restricted because you asked for the money for a specific purpose. You don't have to keep club admin costs, that money separate from like the money you have for your Dream Awards. It can all come from the same place as long as you budget it properly. Okay, I wanna talk about paying dues. This is the reason we're actually doing this in June, and the first part always takes longer than I want it to. Okay, everyone should have access to the new member portal. If you are an incoming treasurer, you don't have access yet, you get access on July 1st, I believe. It's really nice. There's a lot you can do in there. You can get the roster, all that stuff. If you don't get access as club treasurer, it's probably because no one updated SIA that you are the new club treasurer. So you need to ask the old treasurer, hey, you need to go in and update the officers so that I can get access to the member portal. SIA really wants you to pay all of your dues online. Yeah,
A question on the treasurer, is there a way to make an effective date of July first for the new treasurer?
no, I think
Or is
it's
it
just the
change-
next
as soon as
club
I
year, I
change-
think, when you go in and do it. Yeah,
It changes
it'll just
immediately.
automatically do it.
Should we take it off the old one?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
It's only the treasurer and president who do the roster, correct?
they're the only ones with access to
To the roster.
the member portal, as far as I know, still.
Okay,
The president and the treasurer,
right, I think that's.
yeah. You should pay SIA dues online, but I think you can still mail them in with the dues worksheet if you really want to, but I wouldn't, I would just pay them online with the bank draft, it's a lot easier. When you are sending in your dues, you need to update the roster at that time. Do not, if you are actually snail mailing the dues, then do not give them one of your club rosters and expect them to update it on their end, because there's like, what, 1,300 clubs in SIA? You need to be responsible for updating your own club's roster online, so that they have that information, so when they get your dues, it matches the number of members on that roster. Don't put it on SIA. They work very hard. Let's make their job a little bit easier, please, by doing your job, by updating the roster. This came out last year, and I believe it goes into effect this year. You used to be able to start paying dues before July 1st for SIA. That has changed. You cannot pay until July 1st for the new club year. The portal opens on July 1st for paying dues. And starting this next fiscal year, they're payable July 1st, they're due before July 31st. Okay? Okay. You should really be showing dues income from your members in the same fiscal year that the dues are for. I know that a lot of clubs used to, they would, you gather your member dues, people give you checks, people pay online, they do whatever, right? In May of 2025 or 2026, but the dues are for the 2026, 2027 club year. So the money is showing in your books as part of this fiscal year, but it's dues for next fiscal year. All dues money in and out needs to show in the fiscal year that the dues are for. It's a lot cleaner.
Isn't that contradictory to don't hold on money, don't hold checks?
No, because there's a way to do it. You can deposit money, but if you create an invoice for every member and that invoice is dated July 1st, then when they give you the money, you go in, you deposit it, you pay that invoice, it doesn't show up in your books until July 1st, because that's the date of the invoice, no matter when you deposit it. It's a really nice workaround. So that's what I would suggest. It makes it a lot easier to track membership and all that too, and who paid for what, when. It's easier.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, please.
I have a question. How many accountants are in this room? Like actual accountants? Okay, so that's gonna be really important to understand the difference between cost and cash versus
Accrual.
role-based accounting. I'm making a note of this. This is probably something we should train on, because it's not really an easy concept for all of my accountants. It's not necessarily an easy concept for a non-accountant. I mean, we have to learn and stuff, right? So
I'm a non-accountant.
right, and so it's not, but the way you're explaining it, you're giving us up your balance sheet, and so I'm making a note that we should probably provide some additional training across the
Maybe.
board for everyone on this, so just be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, because what happens to that money that you've deposited before July 1st, it goes into accounts receivable. And then on July 1st, it moves itself over. That's what happens to it, so it's there, but it goes into a different.
I understand, but we're a spreadsheet, we're small, you
Yeah.
know, and really, our balance sheet's our cash account. That's it.
Yeah.
So, I understand that, but
trying to figure out how to make it work for your club.
Now, you just make it work that you detail the receipt, saying it's a 20, 26, 27 dues. You know, you just gotta be detail oriented.
That's fine. If that works for you, that's fine.
That adds that if you're not using full accounting software, and cost of that is a club problem, because we're using software that is 10 years old, because we won't pay to update it, so we're looking at switching. But there are other ways to track that and manipulate so that it shows up in that year,
Right.
regardless of when you technically deposited it into the account.
And this is where software like QuickBooks and all of that, and you can say that you wanna do it on an accrual basis, and it'll show up as deferred revenue, which I don't want to give anybody in here a headache that they don't need right now, but I am making a note that this is something that we need to provide additional training on for non-accountants, because a lot of our treasurers are not accountants, they're just figuring out as we go along, so.
And I will say, there are clubs that don't have an accountant in it, or they can't be treasurer, or don't want to be permanently. And you have to be able to get regular people to do this job,
Yeah.
or non-accountant people.
It's true, you do need to simplify it as much as possible, yeah. Okay, I wanna talk about late fees. This is for SIA specifically. There are now late fees if you don't pay your dues, if they aren't received. So if they aren't received by August 1st, there is a late fee of $50 with SIA that automatically gets tacked on. It gets that bill gets generated and you owe it. You show as your club being not in good standing if you owe that money. If they haven't received them by September 1st, it's an additional $100 for a total of $150. If you don't pay your dues, your charter will be forfeited on November 1st. So, pay your dues, pay them on time. And this is SIA specific, and this is new this year, I believe, the late fees. And I will say that, and this is just a personal thing with me, last year when they started talking about these late fees, was the first time that every single club paid their region dues by like October 1st. In years past, I've been tracking down clubs in May, trying to get them to pay their region dues. And that didn't happen last year, because sometimes, if you say there's gonna be a late fee, suddenly everyone learns how to pay on time. It's really lovely. So, don't pay the late fees, pay your dues on time. If you have a member who's like, oh yeah, I'll get you my dues check, don't worry about it, da-da-da-da. I would say if they haven't paid the club by a certain date, you gotta take them off the roster, because you need to pay your region dues and you need to pay your federation dues. And you don't wanna be paying dues for someone who hasn't paid your club, right? Because then what if they don't? Then you're out that money. There are still forms 5008, which is for new members. I don't believe that you have to fill this out and send this in anymore. You can just put in the information on the SIA roster and you're good to go. SNR is a little behind on this, and we don't take any dues electronically yet for the region. I'm hoping that changes in the future. It's not something I could take on, but I'm hoping the next person can. But this is information that is, SIA needs the mailing address of your new member. They need all of that information. So you either have to put it in online or you have to send in the form. I would suggest just putting it online through the member portal. Reinstated members, do you still need to fill it out and send it in for reinstated? Or can you add them back in the portal? You can add them in the portal now? That's excellent, okay. Good to know. I will update that before I put this on the website then.
But if you add a reinstated member, they still have to pay the $10 new member fee.
I believe so. Yes, please.
I don't mean to.
No, you're doing great, please.
One really important thing, as treasurer and officers of a club is
when I was treasurer through QuickBooks, you can generate an invoice that details all of that out, and then basically just copy it for every member.
Yeah.
And then everybody gets that, and everybody knows exactly where their money's going.
Yeah. Anytime you add a member or anytime a member terminates and you let SIA know, because you do it online, you have to let the region treasurer know too, because we also keep a spreadsheet of all the members in the region. Because we have accounting as well that we need to do, I need to have backup for all the dues that I receive, right? So anytime someone terminates or anyone adds, you need to be letting the region know as well. Transfers, same thing. You can use the 5010 if someone transfers from a different club. If a person transfers from one club in our region to another club in our region, they don't have to pay region dues again, okay? Because they're not new to the region, they're just in a different club. If they transfer from another region, we need their region dues.
So if we're updating SIA's database, you, as a region, you're not able to go in and pull rosters?
Sure I can. Yeah. But there are 44 clubs, and if I'm having to do all the paperwork for all 44 clubs, I have a real job, a 9 to 5.
I'm just thinking I would assume it would be electronic, information that you're pulling. I don't know how I'm.
Well, it doesn't have the mailing address, the roster's online, so I don't have access to that. It has the email, it has their name, it has their join date, but it doesn't give me all the information I need.
I personally think that SIA and the region should be speaking electronically more efficiently.
There's no trigger, so what she's saying is that there are 40-some clubs here, there are regions that have, hundreds of clubs or 100 clubs. And so there's no trigger for each individual club every time we change the roster to go to the region. Yes, we could probably look into some trigger, but the best trigger is, and the most efficient and timely one is the one that is done by the club treasurer to say, I just made this change just now, as opposed to waiting for it to go through the whole process.
Yeah.
I hate redundancies, I'm sorry, and it's redundant if I'm entering an SIA and then gotta ship it, same information off to the region.
You can just email it to the region treasurer, that's fine.
I've not done this yet, so I'm assuming I'm doing data entry into a portal.
You are for SIA, you're not for SNR.
Right, that's what I'm saying, it's a little bit of a redundancy.
It is, but we're also two. It's separate dues, we're separate organizations, sort of. Yeah. There is a financial transaction form, you can do all of this online, I would suggest doing it all online. Okay, for region dues, every single person needs to go in the next 5 days. You all need to go onto the region website. You need to click on member info on the right. You need to click on forms and documents. You need to take a look at what's there. We have the most used SIA forms linked for you, and we have the region forms that you're going to need as treasurer linked for you. There is an annual remittance form. The new one won't come out until we elect the new treasurer, because I don't know what address you guys are gonna be sending dues to. So please hold off on sending your region dues. Give me a week or two, and we'll get that new information up on the website. Roster change forms and expense vouchers, if you need to be reimbursed by the region, are all on here. When you're sending region dues to the treasurer, the region treasurer, I need the annual remittance form. This form has the name of your club, the name of the treasurer, an email for the treasurer in case there's an issue and the region treasurer needs to reach out to you. You need to have, it's fillable, it's a PDF. There's a line on the side, you literally put in the number of members who are returning, the number of new members you have. It automatically calculates those numbers times 25, it automatically totals it out for you at the bottom. It'll do it all for you, it'll do the math for you. But you need to be sending that in when you do your annual dues with an updated roster that matches the number of members you have that you're sending the money for, and a check someday online, but for now, a check that is for the number of members times $25. So if you have 10 members next year, you need to send the region a check made out to Sierra Nevada region for $250, okay? You have to send a roster because I actually look at the roster, I update my spreadsheet, and I make sure it all balances out money-wise. Because I can't deposit your check if I don't have some proof of your membership, right? For the love of the new treasurer, please, 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 make sure, look at this before you're doing your dues. Make sure you're sending all 3 of those items. Make sure you're sending them together if you can. I know there are a lot of clubs who have one person, like a treasurer who does all of this stuff, and then a person who actually writes the check, right? That happens in some clubs where you've separated out those duties. If you could get together and put them in the same envelope before you send them, that'd be really cool. Only because, I mean, you know, I am getting a ton of mailings, and the amount of incomplete dues I get, I'm then having to file those, I'm having to email the treasurer, it's a back and forth, maybe the treasurer didn't see the email, I'm having to email again, now it's been 90 days, now the check is getting old. Put it all together, double check it, help out the region treasurer, please, 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 okay? I beg of you. I get a lot of incomplete dues. Now, if you like to send your documents electronically, and you wanna email those and you say, hey, new treasurer, whatever your name is, here's the roster, here's the remittance form, check blah, blah, blah is in the mail. Then she can print out that email, knows to look for the check, that's fine. If you don't wanna snail mail it all together. But do not make your treasurer, your region treasurer, have to go on some kind of treasure hunt for your dues. Don't assume that they understand or whatever. Like, it is a lot of work tracking this stuff down, and you can make it so easy by just taking 5 minutes and making sure it's all together. Okay. Oh, if you have a new member because you need their information, their address and all that stuff, honestly, at this point, SIA barely uses the 5008, so I say you don't even have to do that. If you have a new member join, they usually have to fill out some kind of application for your club, yeah? That has all that information, send a copy of that. Honestly, don't take the time to put it in the 5008, it's fine. Now, you've done your annual dues, you have a new member join in November. Yes, you have to pay region dues for that member. No, we do not prorate those dues. They are due. No matter when your member joins, you need to send their information, 5008, or the application. You need to send the check. You need to send the remittance form that's filled out so it can all be stapled together and put in my happy little box, right, with the deposit slip. Oh. Okay, it's what, June 5th? Yeah. Guys, if you have members joining in June, I would say just wait and have them join for the next club year. Please don't send me a check for new members on like June 20th, because there are things I have to do with that money. We allocate certain amounts of your dues towards different projects, towards conference, towards SDR, but that'll probably change, towards Live Your Dream. We allocate that money, and I have to write physical checks because of the different bank accounts, and I have to then get it signed by the governor who lives in Nevada, and then I have to get it deposited before June 30th. So I would say at this point, if you have a new member, just say, hey, come to our meetings, welcome, welcome. You actually joined July 1st, okay? I wouldn't add new members, because then they're paying you dues now, and then they're paying you dues a month from now. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. Okay, let's talk taxes really fast, okay? I am not a tax professional, everyone. So, I'm just going on what I've been told, what I've looked up on the IRS website. You have to file taxes as a 501c3 by November 15th. You need to file federal and state taxes. You'll notice California has a lot more here. Has a lot more forms than Nevada. It is what it is. California loves a form. This is just an overview of the forms. There are 3 options for your federal reporting. There's the 990. This is if you have a club with a whole lot of money, you made 200,000 or more on gross receipts, you gotta fill out the big form. You probably have a tax professional, honestly, that's gonna fill this out. Most of you will probably fill out the EZ. You have to have less than 200,000 in gross receipts and less than 500,000 in assets at the end of the tax year, which would be June 30th, right? Because our fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th. Then, there are some clubs who are, if your gross receipts are normally less than 50,000, you can file the e-postcard where you do it online, which is lovely, but you need to carefully look at the criteria to make sure that this is an option that you can use. It is the easiest one. Okay. You have to file by November 15th, right? If you don't file for 3 consecutive years, you lose your tax exempt status. And that is a big, big problem, okay? And it has happened to Soroptimist clubs. I suggest that you don't have anyone serve as treasurer more than 2 years consecutively, because if you have someone who's been treasurer for 7 years and they haven't filed their taxes, and no one's really looking into it, who's gonna know? If you change treasurers every couple years, the next person might be like, oh, I need to do taxes, right? You don't wanna lose your status. The reason you don't wanna lose your status is you then owe taxes. You're no longer a nonprofit, you're no longer exempt, right? You can't receive tax deductible contributions. You cannot represent yourself as a charity because you've lost your status. Now, if you lose your status, you can get it back. The IRS are actually very friendly people. They're very busy people, but I don't know if any of you have ever talked to them, but I've had nothing but excellent interactions with anyone at the IRS. There is a fee that you can pay. There's a lengthy application to get reinstated. It takes a while. It's a real pain in the butt. So if you file your taxes every year, you're not gonna have to do that. So I would suggest. Are there questions? Okay, state reporting. I wanna talk about California real quick. Yeah.
Just because I have background with other organizations.
Yeah.
When a club gets, a new club starts and they get their EIN, do they have to apply individually for 501c3, or do they get that status as being a subsidiary organization?
You apply. If you have your own EIN, then.
It is different for different organizations.
Oh.
Because you could have your own EIN and be a subsidiary organization.
They're not doing the umbrella under SIA, right? Every club is their own 501c3.
That is not correct.
It's not correct.
No.
You are under Soroptimist.
You are under our.
You're under the umbrella.
I don't specifically state that you are a separate entity.
Okay.
But if you lose it.
Under our nonprofit status.
Yes.
But if you lose it,
If you lose it, you have to start over and you're on your own.
If you lose it, it is very difficult, if not impossible, to get it back. You're on your
You
own.
almost have to
It's hard.
recharter.
Like change your name, it's all over.
And I was aware of that from working with the other organizations.
Yeah.
But it wasn't clear to me
No,
if
it's-
everybody got it as a subsidiary.
It's kind of like a hybrid. You get under the umbrella, but you still have to actually tell them that you exist and that your EIN exists. And then they send you a letter back saying, thank you. You are now under this umbrella and here is your tax exempt form.
yes,
So it's a hybrid. It's
Yes.
not, you're not running all solo.
yes, I'm sorry, I didn't understand where you were going. Yes.
Okay.
What they both said is accurate, yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
Oh, no,
Since I'm new here.
Okay, for California, there is the 199, that's if you made over 50,000. Or there's the e-postcard, which if you filed the 990N, you're probably gonna file the 199N. They tend to match up that way. You also have to file forms with the California Attorney General. There's an annual registration renewal that you file with your IRS form. Everyone in California has to file this form. There is a fee, it's pretty small, and it depends on your gross receipts. Now, if you file the e-postcard, the federal e-postcard, and you file the e-postcard for California, there's an additional form that you need to send in with the RRF1. And the reason for it is because you don't, when you do the e-postcard, there's some information missing that would be on the larger, the 199 or the 990. And so it just fills in information the IRS doesn't have. It's just an additional form, it's pretty easy. But that's all it's for, okay? If you have raffles, you have to file a report. In California, it is calendar year. If you intend to have a raffle during the calendar year, you have to apply, right? You have to send in the registration form. It's $30. Even if you don't end up having the raffle, you still have to pay the $30. But I would say that if you tend to have raffles, I would go ahead and just get this done every year. Because you need to get it done a certain amount of time before the raffle, and it's $30, so.
Do you have to do it for each raffle, or is it like
No,
one
once.
for the entire year?
One for the entire year.
Oh.
Because there is the CTNRP1, and then there's the CTNRP2, which is the one you file at the end of the year, which tells them how much you actually earned. Even if you don't have the raffle, you still have to file this form and say 0. Okay? If you file the first form, you have to file the second form. And it's due by February 1st.
Is the Laurel lottery, like that we do at these, considered a raffle or no, because it's like a pass-through situation where you're effectively like collecting the money, you're purchasing something with it, the member's not getting cash.
It's also, this is Nevada.
Is that a raffle?
Yeah.
Yes.
But we're in Nevada.
But we're not.
Well, but
So you
Nevada has
do this.
gaming control.
They do.
Yeah.
They do, yeah. That's actually next. For Nevada, there are 2 forms to choose from. One is if you make over $100,000 from your raffles, and one is if you make less. It's really, it takes literally, you email the form and they email you back the same day. It's lovely, it's free, it's so easy. If you're in Nevada, go ahead and do this every year, because then you're covered, okay?
And this is new to me, so, like a 50-50?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna ask one more. Home and Garden Show, vendor provided raffle, donations. We sell raffle tickets, vendors provided the gifts, we, raffle.
Who's keeping the money?
Soroptimist.
Well, then you need this. You're running the raffle, you're keeping the money. So you need to have, you need to let the state know. There's also Secretary of State filings. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on this, they're pretty easy. If your club is incorporated, you have to send this form in, the SI 100, every 2 years. There's a fee, you can do it online. In Nevada, there are 2 forms. Some nonprofits are exempt, some aren't. You literally have to research whether this applies to you, because it's really specific. But basically, if you go to this website and read it thoroughly, you can determine whether you're exempt. But whether you're exempt or not, you have to file a form, okay? So if you're not exempt, you have to file this form with the annual list of your directors. There's a fee. If you are exempt, You have to file the form with the X at the end, okay? It's also $50. Yes, they just want that. Sales tax. In California, if you sell anything for a profit in California, you must pay sales tax that is paid quarterly to the CDTFA. You need a resale license for that, so you need to let the CDTFA know. If you have more questions about that, I can talk you through it. But make sure, once you do that, you have to file quarterly, even if you haven't brought in anything and you're filing a 0, right? You still have to file quarterly once you started this process.
What's an example of something a club might do like this?
That someone might sell.
Shirts.
T-shirts. My club had a beer and wine booth, and we had to pay sales tax on the income, or on what people paid us. So we had to keep track of all of that. But we didn't have our beer and wine booth. It was only like in the summer and fall. So when we filed sales tax for March 31st, it was 0. But we still had to file, and if you don't, they'll come after you. You know, the CDTFA they're pretty on top of their game. So. Nevada, you can get a tax exemption for Nevada, and then you don't have to pay any tax. The region has one, it renews every 5 years, it's very easy to do. But since it's 5 years, someone really has to be keeping track of when that expires and doing the new one. It's really easy, but you have to keep track of when it's gonna happen. So, it's easy to forget.
Can I?
Yeah.
Back to California sales tax.
Sure.
Fundraising dinner, the
Mhm.
intent is to raise funds for the organization, is that considered a profit?
No, because you're not selling a good or a service.
We provide dinner. We charge $75 for the dinner, even though we're only paying $25 for the dinner. We've been paying sales tax on that $50.
On that $50 difference?
Yeah. And it hasn't felt right.
$50 is a donation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's, they're not getting $75 worth of goods and right? Like,
No, but that's not the reason why, that's not, the reason why it's not income is because it's a donation, it's a fundraiser. So it would be the equivalent of, you didn't provide dinner, they didn't pay for dinner, they just gave you $50. And you wouldn't pay sales tax on that $50, because it's a donation.
You're not running a restaurant.
No, we are not.
yeah.
So then, and then
How
this,
long have you been doing that? You might wanna try to see if you can get some reimbursement for that.
I don't even care about getting the reimbursement, I'm so happy that we don't have to for the future. Cause it has, so, and this translates into, how much profit did we make on a particular item that was a silent auction item? We've been very generous to the state, and I don't mean to make fun about not going back, cause we'll absolutely, except that I do hate to call attention to it. I don't want the state seeing anything else that we haven't done.
I mean, but you have the resale certificate, so you're gonna have, I mean, I would talk to them.
No, we don't
either.
have a resale certificate, that's the whole,
But you file quarterly.
yeah.
They
We've
just
been,
take-
well, we were only filing annually. That's the thing, we've only been filing annually, but we filed late.
I
And
would
when we
hope-
filed our annual late, it triggered that we should have been filing quarterly.
Right,
And so now we've been paying like a crazy amount of sales tax to the state.
yeah, no.
Oh, I'm so excited.
No, that's okay, and to call them, you're gonna wait on hold for a while, but call them, and they're very helpful too.
Awesome.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I would like that, thank you.
Okay, we're actually out of time but I do wanna run through the rest of this really fast. Because I wanna get to insurance really quick, but if you're selling alcohol, you need to have a license. In Nevada, it depends on what county you're in, okay? So you need to look into that locally. In California, you have to get a license from ABC. There is a form. It has to get it done early because it has to be submitted, and a lot of times you have to get a whole bunch of signatures for it. So get it done well before you actually need to display it. There is a fee, a daily general fee, if you are doing this. But also, if you're serving alcohol, there is a lot of liability that comes with that, okay? So just be aware of that. Now, you only need it if you're the ones serving it. If, here we are at the lovely Atlantis this weekend. The Atlantis is doing all the alcohol serving. They are taking in all the money for the alcohol. None of it has anything to do with us. We didn't have to get a license, okay? That's their responsibility as the ones who are actually serving the alcohol and getting the income. This is just really quick on the websites that we talked about, just on a one sheet. Insurance. I noticed that the SIA insurance handbook is out of date because it had Pacific Ag on it, and when I checked a few days ago, it was still out of date. But there is a new insurance company for SIA, Gallagher Insurance, Risk Management and Consulting. There's a new email when you're sending requests to get your insurance certificates, which is right here. There's a couple of different forms now. I just had to fill them out for this not that long ago, and there's a simpler form and then there's a more involved form, and it kind of depends on the kind of event that you're getting insurance for. I don't think our insurance covers alcohol anymore. You have to get a separate rider for that.
And it can be costly too. We just had it just for now for an event.
Okay.
At first they quoted us $750 for a dinner, and then they went back and came out with $275.
Okay, but if you don't, you're not just covered by, all of you, when you pay dues, you pay for insurance, right? As a United States club, you pay for insurance through SIA. But it used to cover a lot more than it does now, and you really need to be looking into, what it covers, and you need to be making sure that you are letting the insurance company know when you have an event, because you need to get a certificate of insurance for that and have it on hand in case. Yeah.
So if you have an event, let's just say this was a conference center, we bring in a vendor to handle the bar. Who's responsible for the alcohol insurance? Soroptimist or the vendor that's supplying, that has.
They're serving,
Yeah.
they're making the money,
Yes.
they're procuring all the alcohol.
Yes.
You are just Soroptimists who are going up and buying and drinking stuff. They need the insurance.
Did you get a cut of their profit?
No.
If you get a cut of the profits, that's different.
You may still need to request the rider for the event, but you don't have to disclose that there's alcohol involved because they're taking care of that portion.
Great. It just came out, the new directors and officers insurance just came out. For the regions have to pay it. I got an email and I could pay it online, and it was a very quick, lovely process. It is optional for clubs, but I strongly recommend it. For this current term that started on 5/18, it's $312 per club, but it does cover board members from being sued if anything should happen. It's just a good idea to have it in place. I really strongly recommend it. Every single club get the directors and officers insurance through Gallagher. Yeah.
Evie, so that doesn't cover your club treasurer's like dishonesty bond, because we have an
That's
additional.
crime.
Pardon?
That's crime insurance, which is also offered.
Oh, okay, we get it from someone in the city, okay.
Well, no, there's actually, because that's the next one.
Oh.
Travelers, you can get that, because that's also offered. Sorry, I'm almost done. That's also offered, the crime insurance coverage through Travelers, and I strongly recommend that too, especially if you handle a lot of cash or, whatever. It covers you with losses or dishonesty, so. Okay,
Good job.
5 minutes over, that's not that bad.
It's not bad at all.
This used to be 2 1-hour sessions, guys, and then
Yeah.
last year I had an hour and oh. So, are there any quick questions, or we can talk after? I know, Michelle, you wanted to talk to everyone, but, sorry. Well, I think someone needs the room, because someone just said
The candidates forum starts in 10 minutes
it. Is it in?
in this room.
Oh, it's in
Oh, no,
Paradise.
is it in Paradise?
Paradise.
Because I have to go to that.
I do too.